senses. Alright everybody, PincheAls here, and we're installing Raceland bags on my Mark IV GTI. I have my buddy here, Lance, helping me out today. And so you'll see the car is already on all fours off the ground because we're going to just do it all at once. One problem you're going to have is that if you have it on all four jack stands, one jack stand will not be actually touching the corner. Make sure you leave it there though, no matter what. The reason for this is because when you're on a flat, it's really hard to get this 100% flat. So it'll do that, but it's still safe. Just make sure you have a jack there. Take the wheels off, and then the first thing you're going to need to do is remove the two 16mm bolts on the top, and then the one 60mm bolt right here on one side, and then on the other side you're going to need to get a jack and compress it. And the reason for this, because if you don't, this spring right here is under compression and it'll shoot down pretty hard on you, and you can end up breaking something or just causing more damage or hurting yourself. So make sure there's a jack compressing the spring here on this side. Okay? Once that's done, take everything off, lower the jack, and then pull everything out because we're not using any of that stuff. Keep the hardware though, the bolts and all that have to be reused. And then we're going to show you how to install the strut system over here. Now what we're going to do on this first half of the segment, we're going to show you how to install the bags, and then we're going to go pick up fittings and then airline to show you guys how to run all the lines correctly underneath the car and bolt them to the chassis so they're not dangling or moving out of the way, because you don't want that to happen because you can end up blowing an airline while you're driving or something. We'll show you guys how to do all that, and then we're going to route everything into the spare tire well and then go from there. So these are the rear shocks that I'm working with. Push them all the way down, Lance, and then let go. Look at that. Look at that performance. It barely goes back up. That means this shock is hosed. Let's try this one. Let go. That one doesn't even move. These are shot. Yeah. Shocks are bad on this car. So now you'll notice the rear beam's out and down. Our bunnies are out. So with that, make sure you keep all the bolts together. Everything to take out, to disassemble the rear beam, you just need a 16mm for all of it, okay guys? Make sure you unhinge the brake sensor, or ABS sensor down. And then, hey Lance, unplug the ABS sensor on the other side. It's probably holding it down, or up. Got it? And then pull that spring out, just like that. So that will pretty much get you started to start installing your rear suspension. The next thing I'm going to install, you guys have already seen it before, but my IDF plates, I'm going to install those. So I'm going to remove the calipers and the brake pads and the rotors because this is all needs to be serviced. This car has been in much better shape. It's seen better days, that's for damn sure, huh Lance? We're going to actually hose this all down, clean it up, make sure we see, make sure everything looks good. I might actually end up dropping the rear beam and putting some new bushings in here. Just depends on how bad they are, but I don't think they're that bad. But there you go. Now we can install the rear suspension, and we'll show you how to do that after the cleaning. Hey everyone, PincheAls here, and we finally got the rear ready for bags. So let's check it out. So for your rear installation for your air suspension in the rear, it's pretty straightforward. It's not very difficult to do. One thing that you're going to notice that's really difficult or going to be tedious is how to run your airline. Now, with the bag you're going to run a 90-degree quarter-inch fitting to the left of the car, and then you got to really pay attention, because you got to be careful where to run the line, because you don't want to bend anything or crack anything. And on top of that, you want to get away from the exhaust heat as much as possible. So I don't recommend running the line down here across the beam. Okay, I actually recommend running it over through the heat shield right here and down and over onto the wheel well. Other people will end up drilling a hole through the chassis and into the trunk. That's another good way to do it. Just make sure you drill the hole bigger so you can run a rubber grommet, so you can prevent the line from hitting raw metal and cutting a hole in itself. But you'll run, the other issue that you're going to run into if you do it something that way is that this beam bounces up and down while you're driving. Eventually you can snap or bend the line and ruin it. So the way I ran it for years is up and over to the heat shield, and that's it. It ran fine. I ran that for 3-4 years without a single problem. I ran the first trial, I ran it across the beam, and it melted literally the same day I did that. So that was a bad idea. Got back, I was able to pretty much struggle my way home, but I made it home and figured out another way to do it. Another way you can try to do it is go down this way and go behind the beam. Behind this beam there's an opening. You can run it across and then underneath down to the wheel well. So we're going to show you all the different options that you can go with, but for right now that's pretty much the idea for the rear. Now the fronts are a little easier because you can route them pretty much anywhere you want, so we'll show you how to do that too. We're going to show you how to make sure that none of the lines ever touch any heat and cause any problems with the heat. So I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of the kit of its entirety and stuff that you're going to need to purchase with your Raceland bags. Okay, so number one, what you get in the box are the 2 front bags, 2 rear bags, rear shocks. You get the rear bag tops, the rear bag bottoms plates. You get 6 bolts, all with washers and locking washers. This press fitting right here. So we're going to do the rears first, because the rears are going to be the easiest, because I'm going to have to end up calling Raceland, because on the tops of these fronts, they're camber. They have camber plates, and the issue with that I see already is how to get this plate 100% straight, so we can get the mounting correctly, so the camber is done correctly on the car. So, because they don't give you a manual when they give you this, they give you at least some basic direction on how to do this. So just give you guys a heads up right now. There's a lot of work involved in doing airbags versus just coilovers. So that's the kit in its entirety. Now the lines that you're going to need and the little accessories you're going to need. I end up going to Home Depot, and with like $8 I bought a set of cable clamps, 1/4 inch, and then half inch cable clamps. Got a set 50 pack of these self-tapping screws, and then I ended up going to Parker and SoCal Suspensions to buy in my lines. Now, or my fittings. Now this right here, this little bag alone, each fitting is $10. So depending on how you're going to set your air suspension up, is depending on the fittings that you're going to need. I already have a tank in management, but if you're doing this from scratch and you want to do this on a budget, I would highly recommend doing a paddle valve setup. That can set you aside just a couple $100 more, which is not that bad. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fittings. So that's $120 right there just on fittings alone. The fittings that I'm using are 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch airline. So these are all pretty standard for all your bags. Okay. The tank is a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. So this right here is your 1/2 inch fitting, and then you can use your 1/4 inch adapters to fit those in. We'll show you how to do the install for the rear. So just pay attention and we'll show you guys on how this works. So if you guys are going to try to get into doing the air suspension from Raceland, factor in about a good $300 to $400 for your management. And what I mean by management, you're going to need an air tank, a compressor, and paddle valves if you want to go budget. Then double the amount of airline you're going to need for doing a paddle valve system. At Parker, they sold me my airline for 50 cents a foot, which is super good. So I ended up buying 40 feet of airline for my install, since I'm using the Airlift V2 management. But for you guys if you guys are gonna do this on a budget, remember, double up your airlines, because if you're gonna do paddle valve is super old school, so you have to double the amount of air, the lines that you have to use, one for incoming and outgoing. It's just the way it works for old school lines, old school valving. So let's get to work on the rear. So for the rear of the bag, we're going to have to mount the tops here. And you'll notice there's an indentation here for the airline on the top of the bag. You're going to need to line those up. It's pretty straightforward, nothing crazy. You know, it's pretty dope that that Raceland made a bag system. It's very, very affordable, but it's disappointing that they don't have an actual, like, at least a basic little manual on like what you need to purchase to make your suspension work. You know, it kind of irritates me. You know, because for a lot of you guys who don't know, you know, what's going on, you're gonna be lost, like really lost. And for some people, that's really irritating. You know, that's why I'm here, though. I'm here to help you guys out as much as I can. So now that I got the thread started on that, take out the little rubber stopper there, and you'll see like this little piece right here they give you. You're gonna need a little hammer. So this is what threads on top, like this. This is what keeps the bag lined up on the perch, because now you don't actually have a spring perch for this. This is actually just a perch for the actual bag. That's it. And then underneath right here, they give you this plate and a little washer and nut. And that's what goes underneath, just like that. And that's what locks and keeps the bottom of the bag from spinning around the bottom of the car. So that's how it's held together, like this, on the top of the car. So let's go mount this. First things first, we're going to work with that little nut that came inside the kit. And it goes inside this perch right here. See that? Oh wow, look at that. Well, it just slides right in. So, upside and downside of that is you're not going to be able to, it's not pressed in. So, what we're going to end up doing is, the bag only needs it for it to be centered so it doesn't move around. The bottom plate is what's going to matter the most, because that sucker can't move around. So, like we were showing you before, these line up pretty nicely. So, what you want to do is get that, get your plate and your washer and your locking washer. And it goes down here underneath, which doesn't fit. Why am I not surprised? Hold on. Oh, never mind. Just had to push down into the bag a little bit. I'm going to have to not use one of the washers. Give us a little bit more thread here. And then get your socket and tighten it down. It's got to go on there pretty tight. So for underneath, it's a 14 millimeter bolt or head, I guess. So get that nice and tight. Now be careful not to over thread these, because these can go, you can strip the bottom of the bag, so be careful. So get them on there nice and tight. There's no torque spec from the manufacturer, so you have to make sense of everything that goes in. There's that speed nut, there it is. So since this one doesn't have the nut that fits it perfectly, I mean, it doesn't get pressed in, you want to see how far and just kind of thread it in by hand and pick up the beam and see if you can get that part of the speed, I guess we can call it a speed nut, to fit in there nicely. And that's where we're at. So that's installed like that. So once you have that set at height wise, since I can't really press in that piece, we're going to have to leave it alone. All the bolts are 14 millimeter, so just get those tightened down. And if you can see, the way I was doing this is all the way up, and I'll show you here. It's gonna be hard, but see the lip that's on the bottom of this? You want that to hit the bottom of this, so you have to pull the threads out a little bit, and that'll get you up there, and it'll have it seat flat against here. That's what you want. You don't want to give this a gap to use that as like some type of leverage to bend. I had the similar problem with my previous Mark IV, so I'm not really surprised that these didn't fit 100%. Not all cars are going to be identical. So that being said, that's what I expect. So that's done. Tighten down your bolts on the left and right side. Since the bottom's tightened down, this won't spin, and it's exactly where I need it to be, so I'm pretty happy with that. If you don't, if it's not turned the way you want it, I mean, loosen the bottom, twist it where you need it, set it, and then tighten everything back down. That way the bottom doesn't spin on you. So that's that part for installing the rear bag. Now we got to get a fitting on there, so we got to find where we can direct the line. Now I can already see where I messed up. I should put the fitting on first, and then we actually no. We'll see right now. So for the top of the bag, you're going to get your 90-degree fitting, 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch pipe. It's going to go on here. For the purpose of doing this right, so you guys don't do it wrong, I'm going to redo this top portion, because there's a couple ways you can do this. There's a hard way and there's an easy way, so we're going to do it the right way, so that way you guys watch and then you guys can redo it, but you know, do this next. So first you're going to need your 90-degree 1/4 inch fitting, some Teflon tape. Now the way that Teflon tape works, it's your sealant, so make sure that the tape is super flat. If it's not flat, it's not going to seal right. So when you do it, flatten it out, trying to get it on the threads as close as possible, and then start it and then pull on it. Don't just lay it softly. You gotta pull on it, make the tape get on there nice and tight. And the reason for this is that when you actually start threading this in, it'll make a really good seal for you. I usually say about two turns and we're good. And you'll see how it kind of stretched over the hole. Just put your finger in there and kind of push it back. Just like that, a nice clean. You want that you want no blockage there, so just like that. Now you're going to thread this into the bag itself. Now these are swivel heads, so you'll see I can spin the head. So you got to make sure you get a wrench so you can do these. And these are not 14, so I'm going to go grab a different wrench and then tighten this all the way down as much as you can, and then stop. These don't have to be like torqued to fit. They just got to go on nice and tight. So now I got my little crescent wrench. Just find a good spot and then grab it and just spin it. It's going to get nice and hard. That means the Teflon's doing its job and sealing it. So once it gets a bit too hard to actually tighten, give it a good snug like that. So it's nice and tight. You'll notice I'm not even all the way down on it. That's fine. This is all that matters right here. What's dope about these, you can literally turn it to where you need it. So it's great for setting up airline. Okay, so let's get back to reinstalling the bag. So same process as before. Your locking washer underneath. Don't use the second washer. It doesn't give you enough. I noticed it doesn't give you the right amount of length. I'll try it again, but it's not the right thing to do. Oh, my bad. Forgot to put our plate back on. So the top of the plate. Now these, like I said, these go on. Once you get to the bottom, just give them a good tightening. They don't need to be on super tight. They do have to be on. They do have to lock with the locking washer. So make sure you get that, because the washer is what's going to prevent them from backing out. They don't give you much space to work with, so I'm at the bottom, snug, done. Hopefully this video helps you guys out on how to install your bags as well. What's really cool, if you guys get an airlift air suspension, it's the exact same process to do the install. The only difference is that you're going to have an easier management. Airlift management is cake. It's probably the easiest thing I've ever installed on top of just normal coilovers. So we're back over here. So like I was showing you earlier, put the bag all the way to the top, and if that rivet doesn't go in, give it a couple turns loosening it, because what you want is that to hit the top, and you want the bag, the perch, to be one with the top, just like that. So what you want is the metal part to hit the top of the perch. That way you know you're there. And then the reason why you want these swivels, you see this line? I can turn it and see where I need to have the airline go. It's great. So that way you guys know where to run airline. If you need to run it down this way and out of the way, that way you don't kink it or bend it. Super cool. I love this fitting already. Should have had this on my previous bag setup. Would have made my life a lot easier. So that's set where I want it to be. So I'm not going to touch it. So now you just got to get the bag back in its perch. Get that plate down below. Remember, hand thread it first. Never ever put these on with the wrench without making sure you were able to thread it in by hand. Now, once you have it tightened, loosen it, back it out about a thread or two. That'll allow you to spin the bag a little bit. That way you guys can fine-tune the install. So what you want to do is pick up the beam and see where it sits. See that? I like that. I like that. It's really nice. So that's done. So this part of the install is done. Now we're going to install our shock here from down here and up. If you kept your previous hardware, this should be pretty straightforward. If you threw away your hardware, tough luck, go buy new ones. But I think everybody will be okay for right now. I'm trying to get you guys a good view of what you see and I see. So I'm liking turning the bag a little over this way to the, like almost straight, if you guys can see that. The bag is actually almost perfectly straight, and this will give me access to the swivel much easier for my airline. Once you're happy where it's at, tighten that sucker down on the bottom. Because you don't want this to move. Nice and tight. Remember, don't over tighten them because they're only threaded with inside of plastic, so that plastic can strip, and then that's the end of your bag. And you have to get new ones pressed in or order a new bag. So that's set. Let's get the shock installed. So the next thing you guys are going to need to do is on your old shock, take off the cap and the nut. They give you a new nut, so don't worry about that. So I'll show you guys what to do. The new nut is a 17 millimeter. They give you this weird long washer that sits right here. My guess is just so you don't go too far down, because these are much shorter shocks than your stock ones. This sits on top just like that. It'll be a little wobbly, don't worry. Once you get it all down and nice and tight, that goes away. So get that on there. Now, you can do this by yourself. It's not that difficult. Just make sure you have, let's see, a 17 millimeter wrench and a 5 millimeter Allen bit. So, let's see. Oh. So just get it down like that. Hold that in. Now you'll feel it tighten down a little bit. And then you want to use both arms. And that's it. Nice and tight. All good. The old cap, you want to make sure you keep that. Put that on top because we don't know if it's going to hit or not on top, but this will prevent it from hitting. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting the coil, the stock shock, the Raceland shock, all the way down to its lowest setting. And look at the amount of shock travel. It's actually really good. That's a good 4 inches of shock travel. That's not bad. That's all the way down. I don't know how much more it's actually going to compress when we actually install them, but that's pretty good. If this is like on low PSI, that's a really good shock travel. That's going to be a really smooth car, especially sitting really low. We'll see. We can only see. Now, if we're going to compare them to my Bilsteins, that's the difference right there. From my Bilsteins to Racelands, they're almost 5 inches longer. My Bilstein shocks are really, really long. That's pretty crazy. So that is a huge difference in length of the shock. We'll see how much of a difference it actually makes. If they do make a pretty substantial difference, I'm already winning right here in the rear for my Raceland bags. That's already a big win for me. The shock's installed with a 16mm on the top and a 16mm on the bottom. You're going to need a wrench for the bottom as well. So with your shock ready to install, make sure you install the bottom first and then the top. One thing I hate the most about Mark IVs is its shock. You can always mess up. My caliper is removed because we're actually redoing all the brakes on this car. They were pretty shot, so I said, hey, you know what? Let's do some brakes. Alright, got that started. So the 16 is down here at the bottom. Now what you don't want to do right now yet is actually install the shock yet. You want to get the other side done, and then with the jack, push up on this, because you're going to need to do that to raise the car up and down. What's really cool, you can raise and lower the shock right from the body. No need to actually use anything special. This will lock it, your spanner wrench will lock it, but that's pretty dope. I think that's a really dope design on how they did this. So now that I got that all set, you guys can see that. This side is ready to go in. All I have to do now is get the other side installed, and then we can press it in. I'm going to install my IDF drop plates next, once these are all set in, and then we're done for that. And then we're going to, afterwards, once we get the rear installed, we'll do the fronts. And then what we're going to do after the fronts, we're going to actually do the how to run the lines. And that's where it becomes really tricky, guys. This is easy stuff. I mean, everything makes sense once you actually set everything in stone, or if you ever done coilovers. This is pretty straightforward. The hard part is getting all the lines to set up right and not have any leaks. Ugh. Alright, so now with all the bags and the shocks installed, you're going to get your handy dandy jack, put it underneath the bag, and you're going to jack it up. Now, while doing so, both sides are going up at the same time. You got to remember that. But one side's going to go up higher than the other. So once you have that set in place, the bag right there, the lip is already in. Don't go any higher. Make sure your strut is your shock strut here is gonna go up into the hole straight correctly. And then what we're gonna need to do is go to the other side and double check where we're at. What's gonna happen, and you see here already, it probably happened. We got to go up another like 1/4 inch. And the problem here with doing that, I already go up more, and you see here, like my shock's actually higher, so I gotta go down lower on this side, so everything kind of matches. So I need to make sure I can push this bag in like this. So you guys pay attention here. I'm going to go up about another inch. And that should have put my bag perched just a bit too high, but the right height I need over here. So now with that being done, you'll see the perch is already installed. So now I need to get, the lip is already in. See that? That'll let me at least get the bag started. Whew! It's hot today, man. Should have put up my tent, but you know what? Gotta let it go. So what I'm doing right now is threading the shock for a little bit further down. And now we're gonna jack it up a bit more, and then start the threads on the other side for the shock, and then come on this side. Once that's already in, the bag will stay in place and not come out of its perch anymore. And then I come over here with the jack and then do the same thing. Now this is all what you're gonna do by yourself. If you had two people, life would be a lot easier. So now that I got this up here, now we're going to just keep going up and compressing the bag a little bit. If still no go, you can thread the body up a bit more. Remember to make sure everything lines up. You'll see right up here, hopefully you guys can see that, those are lined up. Now the catch is these have to be threaded in by hand. Never ever start these with a ratchet, because these go in at an angle and your ratchet won't know if it's going in straight or not, but your hands will. Right now that one isn't even going in that well, so we're going to double check that in just a bit. I'll put you guys down. Now with everything installed, this is what your bag setup should look like. If you guys look way different than mine, you guys probably did something wrong. Nothing's torqued down yet, but you'll notice the jack is off of the car, and you'll see how much higher the wheel sits, or the spindle sits. Now you can adjust your height accordingly. Once you actually get a set pressure that you guys like to ride on, then change your height here. That way your car's smoothness stays at a lower PSI, and it'll still stay smooth when you're driving really low. So my next step is to finish the other side and then install my IDF drop plates on here, and then we're done with the rear. Later today, or probably later in the week, I'll finish the fronts on my Mark IV. It's going to be a slow process for me because, you know, I work 2 jobs. So I don't have enough time. But thanks for watching right now. Stay tuned because you'll see more coming up later.